everybody? Welcome back to the basement. I'm your host, Michael Gutierrez. You know, I always dig to find you some interesting stories. I always want to bring some kind of charisma to the show, some laughter, some things that you're going to enjoy. You see so much negativity on TV nowadays in the news, and I want to be that one that you come to the basement and hang out and chill with me and laugh a little bit, you know? And what could be more funnier right now than Justin Bieber? Wow. Like, poor kid. Everybody's blasting this kid. Everybody is just making this kid feel like, you know, he doesn't belong here. He doesn't belong in Canada. He doesn't belong in the United States. He goes over to London and gets into trouble over there. But the latest now is that they went into his private jet. Okay, a 19-year-old kid has a private jet. They go into this jet and they find a little bit less than an ounce of marijuana. They find 2 pipes with residue in them, of course. And now they actually end up going into the Cadillac Escalade as well. And they're finding more drugs and paraphernalia. Now, he just came out of jail last month for a DUI in Miami. And now the video has surfaced when he was actually being booked in the Miami-Dade prison or jail. I don't think he was in a hardcore prison here, but needless to say, they showed the video of him taking the sobriety test in the police station. He had a hoodie on, he had some baggy shorts on, and he was trying to keep his balance. And yeah, the kid was a little high and he was a little drunk. Now, this is a kid that has major influence on the teens nowadays. The kid's about to turn 20 years old, but you still have your 15-year-old kids, your 13-year-old little girls that still like the Biebs, all right? But the problem here is that he used to be this innocent kid singing. I don't know his songs, so don't make me sing any of them. But he was singing these innocent songs, and now it's getting to things that are just provocative. Not to mention his behavior, and the whole world is watching. And it's funny because I just read an article that how about if Lindsay Lohan were to counsel him? They're saying, because she's been there, she's done that, and they're saying, okay, how about Lindsay Lohan being able to counsel Biebs? What would she tell him? You know, the blind leading the blind. I don't know if that would be helpful. But you know, the kid's a star. He's a multi-millionaire. And I guess my question now is what I want to ask parents is that, are your kids being easily influenced by kids like Justin Bieber? And I'm not going to say just Justin Bieber, because you have the music industry and you have the Hollywood industry. And that'll be the tweet of the day. Let's do that. Tweet us at The Basement C3M and let us know what you think. I mean, are your kids easily influenced by this? Is it something that you approve of or disapprove of? And I think that that's a topic that it can be touchy for some parents because they let them do whatever they want. But, you know, I have a teen, and, you know, I'm glad he's into baseball. So when we come back, though, we're going to touch base on a lot of other things, including my boy, Nick Bad Boy Ramirez. That's right, professional boxer, is here in the basement. He's going to talk a little boxing with us when we get back. Stay with us, everybody.
You wanted to be a teacher when you were little, but things changed. Teaching didn't seem that cool anymore, so you decided to become something else. But what would your 12-year-old self say? Amazing things are happening in teaching, so it's time to put it back on your list. Don't try to convince yourself otherwise. You had it right the first time.
Thanks for calling the GED Pep Talk Center. Jerry Stiller speaking. Your level 7 in-your-face pep talk.
I can keep pushing. Believe me, I'm good at it.
Once you've got your GED diploma, you'll feel so good about yourself.
You tell him.
Mr. Trejo, can I transfer this guy to you? He needs something a little more
Persuasive.
Yes.
Whatever motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Get your GED pep talk and find free classes at yourged.org.
Welcome back to the basement with your host, Michael Gutierrez. So I know that you have a lot of TV fans out there. There's a lot of awesome shows been airing lately, especially after the Olympics. Everything's coming back. You have the Chicago Fire. You have Chicago PD. And you have, of course, Law and Order. Now, Law and Order is probably my favorite cop drama show for the last, I don't know, I would say about 10 years. I can always go back, and any channel, you're going to find a Law and Order episode. So, the Law and Order director, producer, creator, Dick Wolf, is the one that's also directing Chicago PD. Now, what they're doing is there's an episode that they're going to merge both shows together. Apparently, there's going to be a crazy killer. He's going to be back and forth from Chicago, the ties somewhere back from New York, back here. So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. But speaking of Law and Order, we have a special guest coming up in Law and Order, SVU, and he's going to play a newspaper columnist. That's right, your buddy, Alec Baldwin. I'm going to say, I like Alec Baldwin. I mean, many people say I look like him, you know. Maybe I look like him in 20 years. I wouldn't mind. He's still a handsome guy. But Alec Baldwin is going to play a newspaper columnist on SVU. The funny thing is that he can't get along with anybody that works in the media. Now, I'm sure you've seen footage or clips of him punching a cameraman. He's getting into disputes with people on the street. TMZ, of course, loves to have fun with him. And I don't know what's happening to Alec, but lately he's been very reserved. He doesn't want to talk to people. Now, he was supposed to be on a show on NBC, and he didn't show up. He called it. He said, I'm not coming in, and it was at the last minute. And he was also going to be on a show with Gawker. And according to Denton's post on Gawker, which linked him from his Twitter account, the event was going to be on a debate about celebrity journalism. Well, of course, that didn't happen neither. So, I don't know what's going on with good old Alec, but it seems like he's trying to stay away from the press, maybe stay only involved with his family and in film. But you know what? Well, like I say, it's good for him. You know, we'll move on to the next thing. Pharrell Williams. Everybody knows Pharrell and that big old hat that he has. I spoke about that recently. The hat is going on charity and it's for sale. The bid was at $10,000. Now, supposedly the bid is higher now. But an interesting story about Pharrell, and it's not about the hat, is that he's 40 years old, looking like 20. Now, how does a kid, I don't even want to say a kid, okay, but I've known Pharrell back 20 years already, but how does he maintain his youthful appearance? Now, that's not what I want to talk about. Funny thing is that people are saying that he's a vampire. That's right. That's what's keeping him young. He is a vampire. Now, of course, he's waving that off and he's laughing about it. And, you know, they do whatever it takes to maintain youthful. But, you know, there's people like that. I mean, I'm 41. I mean, I don't think I look 41. At least I hope not, everybody. Don't tweet that in, all right? Don't tweet that in. But no, they're making a big deal about Pharrell being a vampire and whatnot. And you know, this is nonsense. And you know what? But he is a good producer, and you know, supposedly he's moving into film now. So we'll see what else Pharrell has in store for his fans. When we come back, speaking of fans, that's right, I'm a boxing fan. I got my boy, Nick Bad Boy Ramirez. Stay with us.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt. There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Hey, welcome back to The Basement. I'm your host, Michael Gutierrez. I got a special guest for you, especially all your boxing fans out there. My boy, Nick, Bad Boy Ramirez. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Mike?
Absolutely great, man. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, man.
How you like The Basement?
It's cool, man. Good setup. You know, I like it.
Real basement, right?
Real basement, yeah. Definitely a real basement.
You think we got a studio going on over here?
Yeah, definitely a real basement.
That's good, man. I'm glad that you're with us today. Now, you are a welterweight right now, right?
Yes.
You're a welterweight. And what is your record now?
It's 4-0-1 with one knockout.
So you're undefeated?
Undefeated.
Look at that. We got an undefeated guy right here.
That's me.
All right. So, Nick, tell me a little bit. What got you so involved in boxing? I mean, you're 24 years old.
24.
24. I mean, and you're already 4-0, and you're from Chicago.
Yep.
A lot of people are making predictions about you, man, being a Chicago kid coming up soon, huh?
Yep. I started boxing when I want to say around 15. That's when I met Eric Correa. He was one of your guests.
Eric the Ram.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So I started with him. I was about 15. My mom just one day she had enough of me. I was just a young, rough kid, always getting in trouble, and she's like, "All right, you want to fight, you want to do it, the right way, then I'm gonna take you to the gym and you do it there." So I started investing my time there, and I mean, it's a reality call when you get there. I mean, you get there, it's not like the streets. It's not like, it's a real humbling experience. So my mom took me, and that's how it all started, and I've been doing it ever since.
Now, when you first started, how long did it take you to actually get to compete against another boxer?
I want to say it was about 4 to 5 months. I just started training, and I don't know. I remember I started with Andy too, which is Eric's brother. Okay. And we were working together, and he liked what he saw, and then Eric came on, and he started watching over me too, and which he still does. Every day he's still my coach, and he said, he mentioned the Golden Gloves, and he's like, there's Chicago Golden Gloves coming up. Would you want to compete? He talked to my parents about it, and they signed me up. Sure enough, I went, and I did not win my first fight, but it was definitely a learning experience, and I knew from that point forward that it was something I was interested in doing.
So when you got to the Golden Gloves, you trained for about 4 or 5 months prior to that.
Correct.
And you made it to the Golden Gloves. Yep. And were you a lightweight when you got in there?
I fought at 140, so it was light welter.
Okay.
So I was a little skinny mini kid at the time.
It's all right. It's all right. We all started that way. Now, how many fights did you do in the Golden Gloves?
I had one fight. It was because they go by rounds, and it's winner go home style. So I ended up losing that one. But the following year we went back. I did a little better. I got into the semifinals, and then lost there. And then the following year after that, in 2008, was when I went back. Or it was a couple years that I took off, or not took off, but just didn't go to the Golden Gloves. Right. And I ended up going back, and I ended up winning the Golden Gloves. And then right after, I got to compete in the Illinois State Tournament, and I ended up winning that too as well in 2008. So it was a big year for me. So
you've been fighting now for about how long?
About 9.5 years.
So almost 10 years fighting.
Yep.
Well, that's right, because you started when you were 15, right?
Yep.
All right. So currently now you're 4-0 and 1. Mm-hmm. So when did you actually go pro?
I went pro last year in 2013. I signed with Chicago promoter Bobby Hitz.
Okay, yeah.
And he told me, here, we're going to give you some fights. You got a few fights a year.
So, that's going to be my question now. You know my next question, right? You said 4-0-1. You fought 5 fights in 1 year?
Yeah. I had 5 fights, and it was a busy year, but it was a fun year, man.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Like that's crazy. I'm kind of speechless right now for that. So, is that something that your average boxer has to do before they actually, get to the main stage or whatnot? Because you're a pro already.
Right. I mean, you have to. I think the idea when you're first coming up as a boxer, you have to take as many fights as you can. or you know, whatever makes sense, just so that you can start to make a name for yourself.
I see.
The hardest thing, you know, coming up is putting your name out there, kind of showing people what you got, because you know, everyone, the way boxing works is like, hey, you know, it's like me, I'm Nick, and I'm a boxer or whatever, but you know, what's so interesting about me, or what makes me different than the next guy? So it's like,
it's awesome. Yep. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more to Nick, and I want to find out a little bit more. I want to go deeper. I want to go deeper with you, Nick, because you know, you got some special talent, and Chicago's definitely backing you up. So stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back.
The great outside.
My new mom and I have a lot in common.
So shiny.
We both love the outdoors.
That's not a flower.
And she knows a lot about wildlife.
A labradoodle.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Welcome back to The Basement, everybody. I'm your host, Michael Gutierrez, along with my guest today, Nick Bad Boy Ramirez, welterweight, and hopefully champ pretty soon, right?
Hope so, man. That's the goal.
That's the goal. Now, before we went on break, I'm thinking, Nick, you know, you're born and raised in Chicago, and the fans here in Chicago are really gravitating to you because you're Latino, and you know, we have a huge Latino population here, especially boxing fans. People want to know a little bit more in depth of who Nick is, maybe off the ring, you know, maybe outside of the ring. Tell us a little bit about who Nick is. What do you do to prepare? You know, what do you do as far as your downtime and whatnot, and especially mentally before a big fight?
Well, before a big fight, you know, it's always about preparation, how you prepare, and that comes with a lot of things. You know, time in the gym, also some, you know, how you eat, stuff like that. Focusing on weight cuts and all that.
I'm sure you eat good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I try to eat as clean as possible. You know, I didn't, when I was a younger fighter, didn't know what it meant to eat clean or what it did for my performance. But now I train over with the boys over at Team Kern MMA.
Yeah.
And
Jeff.
Yep, Jeff, Pat, and all them. And I mean, you see when you train with, you know, top level guys such as Pat and Jeff, and you see all those guys, like, I mean, you kind of, you realize how eating clean and training hard, you know, impacts your performance. And you know, you just gotta. It's more about just putting in the work, and it shows, you know, when the fight comes. So it's like my mindset is always just, you know, when I train hard, so that, you know, when I get to the fight, I'm not worried about nothing. I just get in there and I do what I train for, and you know, so far I'm undefeated. It's worked for me. So,
Right.
You know.
Now I see something on your finger there. Tell us what happened there.
This thing's been a pain in the butt. It's you know, I've had this injury since my last fight, which goes back to November, and it was against Roy Navarro, tough kid, also out of Downers Grove. Me and him, you know, we were fighting, and I hurt my hand. You know, the end result was I hurt my hand. I got the victory, but I ended up hurting my hand, and I dislocated my finger, and it's still been nagging me and kind of swells up here and there. So just letting it heal, and you know, we were looking forward to April, but we're not sure yet. So, you know, we'll see where the hand goes. You know, but.
So your next fight's supposed to be this April.
That's what they were asking me about. Yes.
Okay. Do you know who you would be fighting?
I don't. That changes so much. You don't know. You know, this early in your career changes so much that you're never really 100% sure till you get there. You know.
Right. So. Now I want to go back a little bit to this clean eating. I never realized the effect that a boxer has based on his diet and his cardio.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're fighting as a kid, and you know, and it's like first 2 minutes you're a beast, and then, you know, once you hit that third minute, you're tired.
Yeah.
You know, how do you get past that hump there?
It's just I mean, as far as the eating goes, it's what you put in your body is what you'll be able to put out. That's how I always look at it. And then as far as training goes too, you know, you gotta push yourself to those limits. You have to make yourself uncomfortable. You have to be. That, you know, that's the difference between like me and like your average guy. Is like, you know, you can I mean, not dissing other sports, but you can play basketball, you can do other things. As far as fighting, it's like, I know I don't want to be the guy that's staring at someone trying to knock my head off, and there's absolutely nothing I can do because I'm tired. So I always have that in the back of my mind. I just push myself. You know, when I feel like I can't no more, I just continue and keep going. So.
Right. So, as far as your last fight was at the Horseshoe.
Correct.
Were your fights prior to that fight where you hurt your hand? Prior to that, were they pretty much similar opponents, or are you bumping up in weight class? Or how does that work with you?
I stay at welterweight, 147. All my opponents, though, I think they've all been pretty game opponents, which is really good for me. A lot of guys don't like that early in their career. I really don't mind, just because I feel like I'm gaining an experience that a lot of these guys don't have. So it's like I don't feel like I'm building or padding my record right now. I feel like I'm making my record, and by the time when I reach that top level, it ain't gonna feel like top level. It's gonna be nothing new for me. It's just gonna be another day, another day in the office, basically. To fight somebody good, competitive, and know that I have to work to get a victory. So.
Right. Now, as far as your upcoming fights, I know that we don't know who it is. It changes right now. Does it change frequently now because you're still climbing the ladder, or does it get like that even for like a Mayweather per se?
Definitely not for Mayweather. Mayweather has the option to pick, who he fights.
Yeah.
But he's earned that. That's why he's #1. But for me, it changes frequently. But it really depends on. It's just who they ask you to fight. If the guy's a pretty game opponent like I've had, of late, like they don't really back out of fights. If they want to fight just as bad as you do, they're there. But you got some guys that. I want to fight, and then 3 weeks into your camp, they're like, oh, how about this guy because this guy pulled out or, whatever.
Yeah,
so.
and that's an interesting topic there, because let's say you're preparing for some certain fighter, his style, his type, and then 3 weeks later they say, oh, you're not fighting him, you're fighting some other dude that has a totally different style.
Absolutely.
When we get back, I want you to tell me a little bit more about that, because you notice that happens pretty frequent.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to know, what does a fighter like yourself, especially that you're climbing the ladder, you're trying to prove your point, you're 4-0-1.
Correct.
And your opponents have been tough. So when we get back, I want you to tell me a little bit about that, all right?
Yep.
Stay with us, everybody.
Thank you for calling your GED Pep Talk Center. All right, now, are you ready for your GED Pep Talk?
Being nervous is okay. It just shows that you're serious about getting your diploma.
A lot of things are scary. Heck, I'm scared of clowns.
No quiero ir. Danny, no lo puedo hacer.
DMC, life in your pep talk style.
Just keeping it real, Debs. Just keeping it real.
Whatever motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Get your GED pep talk and find free classes at yourged.org.
We're back at the basement, everybody. I'm your host, Michael Gutierrez, with my guest, Bad Boy Ramirez. I'm just going to call you Bad Boy. How's that?
Works for me.
It works for you.
Works for me.
All right, so before the break, I was thinking, what happens when you're preparing for a certain fighter? You got 3 weeks left for the fight, you're mentally ready, you're physically beasting it, and all of a sudden they change fighters on you who's totally different. What happens on that?
For me, I like this. I think, personally, I think I'm wired different than a lot of other guys, a lot of these other fighters. I like to think I'm adaptable. I know a lot of guys that say that because I think it sounds good and that's what you're supposed to say, but for me, it's more about like, they say, Nick, you're going to fight this guy. You never get a lot of film anyways this early in your career, or a lot of, study time with these guys. You either know something about them, but it doesn't matter. I mean, come fight time, you can know whatever you want to know about the guy. You still have to fight him, and you still have to stop it. So it's like, I mean, you just have to be adaptable. I mean, same thing when I do fight and I'm in the ring. It's like, hey, when I get there, look, this guy's a certain kind of fighter. He's going to come after you this kind of way. Okay, if I can stop him, I stop it. If I can, I just adapt as I go through the rounds, and continue to do that. So
right. And now speaking about film and whatnot, yeah, I'm 41, so I'm a little bit older. I know you're 25, 24. You're getting up there as far as your experience. But do you go back ever and look at a dude like Frazier, Ali, Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, Hector Macho Camacho, who recently passed away? Now, do you go back to any of those guys and kind of get just kind of get an idea of what you can change or what you can adapt to your style?
You always got to look at. I think you always got to look at the greats. You know, they're the ones that made the sport what it is, and you know they kind of set the bar for what boxing should be. You don't get a lot of boxing like that nowadays, like the old school boxing. You know, some fights are either stopped a little early or whatever happens. You know, or it's more about the safety of the fighter, which is good too. I mean, I understand it. I completely get that. But I definitely do go, I do try to go back and study, some of the greats. Some of my favorites, are, doesn't fit my style, but some of the greats I love to watch is Arturo Gatti. I love Felix Trinidad, Julio Cesar Chavez, all of those guys.
Son's not doing too well, right?
He's all right. He needs to be more dedicated. But, I mean, I think he's tough, but tough only gets you so far in the sport. So, right. But yeah, I always, like I said, to touch back on your question, I always make sure I get back to. You always got to go back and look at the greats, man. That's how. That's where you're going to learn the most from.
Were you inspired by someone in the past?
I was inspired as a fighter. I think when I was in my teens and growing up, but he's really not that old. I mean, he's an older fighter now. But my favorite fighter to date is Miguel Cotto, and I've been, I'm inspired just by his style. He's he's just a brawl and maul kind of guy. He just comes forward. He's aggressive, but he boxes really well.
Right.
And he's always been my favorite. I love watching the guy fight. So,
is there somebody that you have in mind right now that you would love to fight within, let's say, 12 months?
No.
We're gonna call him out right here in the basement, everybody.
For me. Whatever you got, man. Whoever they got, I'm always training.
Don't make me put on his gloves right now. I'll go to Eric the Rams and have him train me for a week and see what we can do.
Whatever they got.
All right. So your most memorable fight?
My most memorable fight. I want to say my last fight. Just because I feel like it was a great performance, and I just, I don't know. I feel like I was the underdog going into the fight.
Okay.
And I feel like I don't know, I don't really care, I should say, who I proved right and wrong.
Right.
I proved a lot to myself, and I just want to keep building off victories like that, fighting opponents of that nature, that caliber, just so I could keep, making a name for myself and keep showing people that, I'm Nick Bad Boy Ramirez and I'm not going anywhere. So
before we wrap up, Nick, if anybody wants to follow you, where should they go?
I got a Twitter account. It's at Bad Boy Ramirez. Same with my Instagram. It's at Bad Boy Ramirez, and then my Facebook is Nick Ramirez, and then I also have a Facebook fan page, which is Nick the Bad Boy Ramirez. So you guys can follow me there. I usually respond back to guys and stuff like that.
Nice.
So,
hey, Nick, thanks for being with us here at the basement.
It's
been a great time here at the basement. Stay with us again next week when we have some more interesting news for you guys. From Michael Gutierrez at the basement, so long, everybody. Take care.